We begin with the federal indictment of President Biden's son, Hunter Biden, on tax charges. Earlier this year, Hunter Biden entered into a plea agreement with the Justice Department on 2 misdemeanor tax charges. The deal collapsed after facing scrutiny from a U.S. District Court judge. Hunter was indicted in September by another federal grand jury in Delaware on felony charges that he lied about being a drug user on an application to buy a gun. He pleaded not guilty to those charges. CBS News senior investigative correspondent Catherine Herridge joins me now. Catherine, what stands out to you in this indictment?
Well, what stands out to me, John, is that there is so much daylight between this indictment and the plea deal that fell apart in July. I was in that Delaware court when it went sideways, to use a fancy term. That was a deal for 2 misdemeanor tax charges of failure, failure to pay, failure to file, and then this diversion program for the felony gun possession. And when that deal fell apart, I don't think anyone quite realized what the ramifications would be, and it's landed us here today with this 56-page indictment. These are very serious felony charges in this case that was absent in the plea deal. And then in addition, you have these misdemeanor tax charges. What strikes me as well is it seems to be laying the groundwork for potential charges in the future, that this may not, in fact, be the end of the road.
I want to ask you about the end of the road, but just going back in history a tiny bit, the dispute when you covered that that plea deal going sideways, there was a dispute about whether the plea deal covered kind of everything or whether the prosecutor was going to be off looking for more things. So is it possible, and I don't want to get into speculation here, but as you said, there's a lot of daylight between what was in the plea deal and what's here now. So this could very well be both other things they've found since that plea deal, but it also could be what Hunter Biden was possibly worried about when he hoped that the plea deal would take care of everything else because there was more out there.
Well, let's kind of take that in 2 steps, John. Let's take people back to that courtroom in July. There was a very dramatic moment. I was in that courtroom about 20 feet from the president's son, and there was what's called a sidebar when the lawyers get together, sort of out of the earshot of the judge, and they try and work out the details to see if they can bring this to completion. And in the course of that discussion, they were trying to debate whether this plea deal was the end of the road, what they call a global agreement, that there would be no further charges, it would kind of insulate him, or whether it still left the door open to a future prosecution. And what came up in that conversation is that it did leave the door open to what they call possible FARA violations. Those are violations of foreign lobbying laws. And it was at that point that Hunter Biden's attorney, Chris Clark, said very dramatically, and we could hear him, we were that close, he's like, well, I guess we just rip up the deal. And that was the moment where the whole thing really kind of imploded. On to your second question. When you talk to these IRS whistleblowers, and they first spoke to CBS News when they came forward alleging that there had been preferential treatment for the president's son, they also submitted to Congress some records that are now public. One of them is a document which was what I would call a recommendations document about potential charging decisions, and that was for multiple felonies as well as misdemeanor tax charges. And I was told by one of the whistleblowers that the documentation to support that recommendation was over 1,000 pages in length. So based on just a cursory reading of this indictment, it doesn't appear to me that there has been new information since the plea agreement, but it looks like it's sort of fulfilled or enriched the filing with the existing evidence.
Now, you mentioned there could be more charges. What makes you think that?
It's just my reading of the document. In the first page, I think the language is that they describe him as a lobbyist. Lobbyists have to register under what's called FARA, the Foreign Agents Registration Act, which is a government way of saying that if you're working on behalf of foreign interests, you have to tell the U.S. government. In this case, the indictment spends a lot of time talking about Hunter Biden's business deals with the Ukraine energy firm Burisma. It also talks about his work with a Chinese energy firm, CEFC, and it also talks about his work with Romania. And that, to me, seems to leave the door open to potential FARA violations. I also would add that there has been some reporting subpoenas have been issued for his business partner, the president's brother, James Biden, and that would go to the idea of FARA, working together, lobbying on behalf of foreign interests. Now, we say all of that, but their position has been that he accepts responsibility for this period in his life, but they've in no way admitted that they have been lobbying on behalf of those entities.
Catherine Herridge for us in Washington. Thank you so much, Catherine.
You're welcome.